Welcome into episode 3 of PTR, brought to you by Southern Draw. We are happy to have you here. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to leave a like or comment or subscribe if you love college football. We breathe, eat, sleep. I said it wrong, but as you know, all we do, college football, 24/7, 365, all the time. So let's go ahead and get into it. You see the board. We got Kansas new uniforms, the Great Wall of Georgia, as I'm liking to call this current recruiting cycle for them. We got Rece Davis comments on Michigan, Florida's new stadium, renovations, not new stadium, renovations. But we got a lot to get into, so let's go ahead and get into it for you. I'm going to throw the Kansas uniforms up on the screen for you. But yeah, I got them on my little device here to look at. Kansas dropped these new uniforms so much better than the old ones that they just had. You got a bunch of new life with Leipold right now in Lawrence, and these uniforms just look fantastic. Like, these are great traditional, a modern traditional look. Great font choice. A little big, but still good. And I love that the helmet for the home actually matches the jersey, because sometimes when you see these like chrome or metallic helmets, like well, obviously Notre Dame's are gold, but their helmets don't really match their pants anymore, or for Kentucky when they kind of do it. The colors are a little bit off, or Louisville, but you see that. Now we also have the away uniforms for Kansas, and these are great. They got the triple stripe going back. The red kind of fades off on its way back, but it's just inverse of the blue, but these look great. These are fantastic. Great upgrade. Rock chalk, baby. Good job, Jayhawks. Now, let's go ahead and dive into everything else besides uniforms. The Great Wall of Georgia. That is what I'm calling this right now. Kirby is just loading up in the trenches at an insane level. I know he loves his linemen. He is built on power football, but he's just emphasizing it like he never has before. I mean, he always emphasizes it, but this is crazy right now in the class they have. Kirby, I've been saying it for a year, he's bringing back real football in college football. We had the era, everyone's running around, passing, throwing. Let's go as fast as we can. Let's do all this. Kirby's just playing, look, we're just going to play complimentary football, and we're going to smack you in the mouth. And that's what he's doing. So, the Great Wall of Georgia, 6 offensive line commits so far. Let's start here. 4-star Daniel Calhoun, 6'6", 355 pounds, the number 4 offensive tackle. 4-star Michael Uini, 6'7", 290, number 14 offensive tackle. 4-star Nair Daniels, 6'8", 340 pounds, number 10 offensive tackle. 4-star Marquise Easley, 6'5", 335 pounds. Then you got 2 3-stars, Marcus Harrison and Malachi Tolliver. One of the 3 stars is the number 3 player out of New York. That's Marcus Harrison. He's 6'7", 336 pounds. That's a big man. These are big boys coming out of high school. These are monsters. These guys are going to contribute. Now let's flip to the defensive line. 3 of their 5 defensive line commits so far. They're all 4-stars. 4-star Joseph Jonai Ajayin, 6'4", 275, the number 11 defensive lineman. 4-star Jordan Thomas, 6'5", 296 pounds, number 16 defensive lineman. 4-star Justin Green, 6'4", 260, the number 23 defensive lineman. Kirby Smart is going and taking as he pleases in the trenches, which is the most important position in all of football. Offensive and defensive line, you have to start there, and that's what Kirby's doing. He's emphasizing everything on it. That is ultimately the position that separates you. Everyone can have skill position players, but when you get to these big games or the college football playoff and SEC titles, if you can win the trenches and you win that battle, you win majority of the time. Now, let's move on to UTSA. They just landed their highest recruit in program history. I thought this was really cool for the Roadrunners, and 4-star safety Kenyon Kelly. I just wanted to highlight that. Some of these I'm going to go through are 1 or 2 players that committed to these schools, but they're just good high-profile players for these universities. Maryland lands 4-star DeJuan Williams. He's a big win for the Terrapins. You get to keep him in state, the number 6 player in the state and the number 20 running back nationally. Big pickup for the Terps right there. And Ohio State, obviously, it's Ohio State. Got a 5-star D lineman, Justin Scott, the number 1 player in Illinois and the number 14 player nationally. Ohio State still sits comfortably at that number 2 class. Able to catch Georgia? I don't know. Georgia's kind of killing it right now, like at an insane level. But Ohio State, you still have a realistic chance. I'm not underplaying what they're doing. Right now, they're recruiting at an insane level as well. Oregon came into the state of Alabama and took 4-star offensive tackle Jaquan McCroy. He was the number 6 player in Alabama and number 3 offensive tackle nationally. And they also landed a 4-star linebacker recently, Dylan Williams. They now have the number 8 class in the 2024 rankings. So, huge win coming all the way into Alabama for that. And then here we go to Kentucky. Kentucky landed 4-star Terrion Nichols, the number 9 player in Ohio. And this is a big one right here. 4-star linebacker Elijah Groves, the number 2 player in Tennessee and 14th linebacker nationally. That is a huge pickup for Stoops and the Wildcats. Next, another big recruit. Oklahoma landed, this is a home run right here. Commit a 5-star tight end, Davion Mitchell. He's in the class of 2025, but he's actually reclassifying to the class of 2024. So in 2025, he's the number 1 player in California and the number 2 tight end nationally. Huge win for the Sooners. I believe they won him over Alabama and Texas. That is a big, big get. Next, this one's not really crazy, but it's fun to highlight. Michigan State actually got Matt Hasselbeck's son, former NFL QB Matt Hasselbeck, by the way. Henry Hasselbeck, he's a 3-star and the number 4 player out of Massachusetts. The quarterback commits to the Spartans, and they also got a recommit from 4-star Nick Marsh, the number 3 player in Michigan, a wide receiver. So big get for Tucker and co. Next, we move on to the story that hits hard here. 5-star wide receiver Cam Coleman commits to Texas A&M on top of the 4-star Draylon Miller that Texas A&M already had, and they now have a top 10 class for 2024. Coleman, by the way, is the number 1 player in the state of Alabama. He's the number 3 wide receiver nationally and 11 player overall nationally. This one hurts being an Auburn fan. Obviously, a lot of fans thought it was going to be Auburn, but Texas A&M lands them. And I was actually worried about A&M getting them in June. I said it to one of my friends that I was more worried about them than anyone when it looked like we were the clear favorite. But I get it. I get why he went there. Big NIL deal. It's not the only reason. I'm not going to jump to that. No, he's got family there too as well. So I see why he went there. I think he made the smart decision if he wants to feel relatively close to home but wants to go to a new place, because where he went to high school is not that far from Auburn and Central. So I get why he went there. He's got family there, new environment, good NIL deal as well. On top of that, good for him. Good decision, Cam Coleman. I know that sucks to say as an Auburn fan, but good on him, and big pickup for Jimbo. Big pickup. Next, this one is big. Arizona lands 5-star Elijah Rushing, the number 1 player in Arizona, number 1 edge nationally, the number 8 player overall nationally. He's the best recruit and first 5-star in Arizona history. So I love this. He's staying home. This is huge. I believe his brother goes there, and he actually lives in Tucson. But he had a quote, like I always say in my videos, when there's kids like this, I'm going to highlight them 11 out of 10 times. Elijah Rushing said, "Do you want to be remembered as just one of the guys who took that common road, or do you want to build something from the ground up with your own hands? For me, it's something that became really important. I want to build something special at the next level, and what better way to do that than at my hometown school for a community I love." That is Rushing on committing to Arizona. Love that mentality. A player like you could have gone anywhere in the country. You decide to stay home and in a school that looks like it's on the up. And it's just nice to see schools like that get these kind of players and keeping them home or keeping them in-state. So good on you, Elijah Rushing. I'm cheering for you. Go get them in Arizona. Next, this is one that you don't really ever think about talking about. Vanderbilt. Yes, Vanderbilt landed 4-star running back, a composite 4-star, Johan Cardenas out of Houston. He's their 16th highest recruit ever in history per 247, and they actually sit at number 33 in the 2024 class rankings. I know that's not very impressive to a lot of people, but for Vandy, they're looking for their highest class since like 2013, so it's pretty big for them. And Coach Lee, keep it up. We see you working there in Nashville. Keep it going. Next, we move on to Missouri. They landed 2 4-stars in wide receiver James Madison II out of St. Thomas Aquinas in Florida, and cornerback Cameron Keys, the 18th cornerback nationally, also out of Florida. Missouri now has 7 commits in the past 2 weeks, which is pretty big for them. And they actually have 4 players out of Florida already in this class, which, as we know, Florida is an insanely talented-filled state. They have not had this many from the Sunshine State since 2014 when they got 7 commits. So it's looking good. If you can pull talent to Missouri from Florida, that's big. You're getting key playmakers at important positions. Good job, Mizzou. Good job, Drinkwitz. Next, UCF. Yes, the new Big 12, or the Big 12 newcomers, UCF. They actually landed 4-star Qua Birdsong and 4-star tight end Kylan Fox. He's out of Grayson High School in Georgia. People who pay attention to high school football, you know what Grayson High School is. He's the number 19th player overall in Georgia and a top 150 nationally. He's actually the 4th best recruit in UCF history. That's a big pickup for Gus Malzahn right there. They also landed 3-star quarterback E.J. Daniels for the class of 2025. So right now, Malzahn's looking back in his great recruiting ways in Orlando. Good for them as they move to the Big 12. Got to up that recruiting, and it seems that Malzahn is doing that. I mean, he knows how to recruit. He was here for a long time, so he's not stupid. He knows how to get it done. He's getting it done in Orlando. Next, we move on to Georgia Tech, highlighting some schools that you would never really think about today with Vandy, Georgia Tech, and UTSA. But this is what you get when you come in here. This is what you get. We don't just talk about the powers. We talk about everybody. Next, Georgia Tech lands commitment from 4-star Isaiah Kenyon, who actually decommitted from Notre Dame on July 1st, and then he went to Georgia Tech on July 4th, I believe. So Georgia Tech ended up winning that. They lost the battle, but they won the war. They got a great player right there. They also landed 4-star athlete Troy Stevenson, the number 3 player out of South Carolina, and the 7th-ranked athlete nationally. Georgia Tech now has the 21st class in the class of 2024 rankings, so that's big for them, especially just the way that program's been recently, winning these recruiting battles, especially one against Notre Dame. That's big. Now, this is one I save for last because I am currently in love with this recruiting class at this school. Arkansas. Arkansas just landed 4-star Ashton Bethel Roman, the wide receiver, who's the 16th best player in Texas and 18th best wide receiver recruit in the country. Bethel Roman's also the 23rd highest commit in the history of Arkansas. So that is a huge commit, and they now sit at 24 nationally in the recruiting rankings. But I'm just saying, this Arkansas class is looking pretty dang good so far, especially on the offensive side of the ball, which is where I am in love with this class currently. So right now, you have 2 4-star wide receivers that have committed. You have 4-star QB KJ Jackson, who is a stud. And you have 4-star athlete Noreel White, who actually kind of dabbled in QB, or is dabbling at quarterback in high school. He plays both sides of the ball. But this quarterback, KJ Jackson, for people who don't know, he plays in Alabama at St. James. He's the number 1 quarterback in the state of Alabama for 2024, number 19th QB nationally. But I'm telling you, this kid is underrated. This kid is good. I know this commitment was a while ago, but adding these wide receivers with him, I just want to highlight this for people who don't know. I've seen the kid play. He's electric, man. He had St. James to their first ever state title last year in incredible fashion. They were down 20-10 to Piedmont, who's a powerhouse in smaller football in the state of Alabama. He threw 5 touchdown passes in the second half to come back and win that. He had 351 yards in the state title, and he finished the year with 42-7 touchdown interception ratio. Arkansas is hot. Sam Pittman grilling it up there for the Razorbacks. Good to see them getting a good thing together. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just throw this on here, recapping the top 10 for people who maybe don't necessarily pay attention to recruiting as much. But right now we have the top 10. Georgia's 1, Ohio State's 2, Florida's 3, Michigan at 4, UFC 5, Notre Dame 6, Penn State 7, Oregon 8, Texas A&M 9, LSU 10, and that is as of today, July 9th. So, like I said, these change all the time. There's recruits left and right every other day. But as of now, that's how it is, and Georgia's probably going to stay at 1, and Ohio State's probably going to stay at 2. But you'll see a lot of other teams move into the top 10, and teams drop out as the season goes along and everything else. Now, let's move to Rece Davis. This was about 2 weeks ago. This was before 4th of July, but it didn't really get talked about much. I just wanted to say something on it because I think it makes sense. Rece Davis ranked Michigan the preseason number 1 team. Obviously, there's not a lot of things that really matter when we're talking about preseason rankings. You can basically crumble them up and throw them out the window. We know the elite teams or teams we think are going to be elite, but there's so much shiftable stuff. But Rece Davis said, "My biggest reason they are number 1 of the few contenders who may have enough everywhere else, and a proven QB who I believe is going to be much better." I mean, you got to remember, Michigan's returning 3 offensive linemen who are part of the Joe Moore award-winning offensive line, 2 absolute stud running backs, an incredible defense. I mean, you got J.J. McCarthy, probably a top 10 quarterback in college football, coming back at a position you need to know you have experience to go for a title most likely. So it's hard not to place Michigan at the top. I mean, you lead the Big Ten in returning production. You're 5th nationally in returning production. You've won 2 Big Ten titles. You've been to the college football playoff twice. But the thing is, people were getting upset that he was saying that and it wasn't Georgia. But I get why, because we don't really know what Carson Beck is or the quarterback situation at Georgia yet. If we know it's going to play out, I would preseason rank Georgia number 1. I think everyone would. Rece even would agree with that. But just saying, before we know that, people like to make jokes and stuff. Michigan's selling short, but Everyone thought last year was supposed to be their year. If anything, this year is their year, other than any other years that they've had in the past too. So right now, I think they do deserve to be preseason number one, even though I know Georgia's one. I'm not trying to be the guy that's like downplaying Georgia and everyone. I think Georgia's going to win the national championship. But right now, on paper, I think Michigan should be preseason number one. I agree with Rece Davis. Georgia fans, don't get mad about that. I just think that's how it is on paper until we find out the quarterback situation. Now, let's move into Florida. This is the last topic we got for the day. Florida unveiled a $400 million renovation to the swamp, or Ben Hill Griffin, whatever you want to call it. This is big because Florida's had a lot of, I guess, not necessarily renovations. They've had projects on the stadium, but it's a beautiful stadium. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be fixed. I've been there before. Probably one of my favorite, if not favorite environment. We lost, but it was still awesome to go. Probably my favorite environment in stadium that I've ever been to. But they're officially renovating it. The university is looking for an architect actually this month to do it. So it's important for this project that the AD Scott Strickland said, we don't really know exactly how much, but it's projected at $400 million. He doesn't want to be premature on that. But they want to keep the stadium more fan-friendly and for younger generations coming up to be able to go to Ben Hill Griffin and have a good time. But he wants it to be a multi-generational solution, so I get that. I mean, it's almost a 100-year-old stadium, but he wants to modernize it, but keep it traditional. I believe he said he wants to modernize it, but keep it traditional, which I understand because there's a lot of things about the swamp that the fans love. I think it's not necessarily the inside of the stadium. I don't think they're really going to expand seating. They may a little bit, but I think it's more so the exterior stuff and kind of smaller things like concessions and tunnels, because it is a little bit dated when you see it from that perspective. But on the inside of the swamp, it's still as beautiful as ever. But that's about it for Florida there. Thank y'all for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Tried not to drag it out too long, but thank y'all for listening. Don't forget to drop a like or subscribe if you enjoy college football content. Like I said, we live and breathe it. Hell, we sleep and dream about it. Thank y'all for tuning in. Have a great week.